Renault are seemingly a bit unstoppable at the moment. In fact, I can hardly keep up with all the cars that they're releasing. This month alone in showrooms, we've seen the arrival of the new Renault Scenic. We've also started to see in dribs and drabs the new facelifted Renault Captur. And this is their flagship model. This is the Renault Rafale. And if you're a little bit confused where all of these cars fit in the lineup of Renault models, well, hopefully that's what I'm going to help you with today. Hi guys, I'm Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. In today's video we're going to be talking all about the Renault Rafale. Why would you choose this car over its competitors or over anything else in the current Renault lineup, for instance the Renault Austral? So if that sounds good then please keep watching, and if you like new car reviews and car content then you're in the right place. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Plus, if you wanted to check out the Rafale for yourselves or book yourselves in for a test drive, then you can do that at either John Banks Ipswich or John Banks Cambridge. I'll pop their details in the description box down below. But let's start by talking about design and size, because you may be thinking, well Tish, that just looks like a facelifted Arcana. But you see, the big difference is size. This is absolutely massive. It's much bigger than the Arcana and has way more interior space for families. So I'll talk a bit more about that in a moment. But starting off by talking about design, you may be thinking, that looks really familiar. Where have I seen this car before? And it may be that you're thinking about the Peugeot 408. And it's not just a case of Renault have seen the 408 and thought we want a piece of that. You see, no, actually, this does have a little bit of 408 DNA in it. You see, the Renault's design boss, who's Gilles Vidal, he actually worked on the 408 just before he came over to Renault. So he definitely brought some of the inspiration across. But personally, when it comes to this car, comparing it directly to the 408, I do think that this has better engine options. At the moment, it's only available as a strong hybrid. You've got a 1.2 litre petrol engine and then you've got two electric motors giving you 200 brake horsepower. And it can actually run in electric far longer than the Peugeot 408 does, and it gives it a much smoother drive. I'll talk a bit more about that when I actually drive this car. And also it's going to be arriving in a plug-in hybrid as well with 300 brake horsepower, but that's going to follow on a little bit later on, and hopefully I'll get to test drive one of those when they arrive. Now the one issue with this car is it's going to be very pricey, especially for a Renault. As I mentioned, this is their flagship model, so this is going to cost, well, just below £40,000 for pretty much all versions, right up to into the 50s if you go for that plug-in hybrid. But it's not all bad news. You see, Renault have worked really hard on providing a very, very good car to drive. So much so that this comes with four-wheel steering if you go for the higher spec models like this one, which is the Esprit Alpine trim. Now that's some pretty big tech, and it makes for a very good car to drive. So before the plug-in hybrid arrives, it's only available in a strong hybrid, and it's a very similar setup to what we've already seen in the Renault Austral, and in my opinion that's no bad thing, because that car quite impressed me. It feels like a blend of the best of both worlds. It drives a lot like an electric car in the fact that you don't have jerky gear changes, the power delivery is very smooth, it's very quiet, but you have the benefits of having that petrol engine as a backup. Now this vehicle has been designed from the ground up to run as much in electric as possible. So that means it is best driven at low speeds. But like I said, that wasn't necessarily what they were going for when it comes to the Rafale. They wanted the Rafale to have a sportier driving setup. So a lot of engineering has gone into the way the steering works. It features a 20mm wider track than the Austral and E-Space, along with 10mm wider wheels and a bespoke chassis tune that boosts steering response times by 30% and reduces body roll by 10%. The majority of models, excluding the entry-level Techno, possesses a rear axle that can rotate up to 5 degrees at low speeds. This feature enables a smaller turning circle of 10.4 metres, similar to the Clio, and it enhances agility. Additionally, at speeds above 31 miles per hour, the rear axle aligns with the front axle, providing improved stability during fast manoeuvres. The Rafale demonstrates impressive composure when pushed to its limits, maintaining its trajectory even when applying throttle mid-corner. This sensation of rotating around its midpoint can be likened to torque vectoring hot hatches, such as the Megane RS or the Audi S3. But let's not get too carried away, because the Rafale does not fully satisfy the enthusiastic driver. While the steering rack is responsive and the chassis offers a comfortable and predictable ride, it lacks the rewarding and engaging nature that truly excites. The steering, in particular, lacks the necessary feedback to encourage spirited driving. Styling is of course subjective, and not everybody is going to like the looks of this car, but I really think they've done a very good job at standing it out from other vehicles on the road. Renault have quite a lot of presence at the moment, and that's because they're coming out with some really stylish looking cars, and this is definitely no different because it looks really quite striking. The front of the car of course looks a lot like the rest of the range, but it has its own little elements which just stand it apart. Now, I love the way you've got this front grille that almost sits just below this bonnet line, which kind of juts out a bit. Now, this is almost like chain link on this front grille, and it twinkles depending on what angle you look at it, because it's got a silver underneath those floating black Renault shaped designs. You've got the massive front Renault badge, which houses a lot of the car's safety features, and I also love the lights as well. It's very dynamic in its styling. You've got lots of lines and edges which lead up to those daytime running lights. I think they look great, and I also like the way that they light up individually as you approach the car with the keyless entry. You've also got a black diffuser on the bottom of this sportier Esprit Alpine trim. It looks great in red as well. When I turned up and saw this car in red, I was quite relieved, because a lot of cars nowadays, especially when they're first delivered, are in greys and blues, and Renault do a lot of greys and blues, but it's nice to see it in red. It really stands out. The only issue for me, however, when it comes to this colour is the interior colour. You see, because this is the Esprit Alpine trim, you get those familiar flashes of blue. You've got the blue felt line door cards, you've got blue floor mats, flashes of blue in the seats, and you've also got these blue seat belts as well. So I'm not too sure about the two colours, although red is in here as well. You've got the French red, white and blue theme. You've got the stitching on the steering wheel, across the doors, and also once again on the seats. So it somewhat comes together, but let me know, what do you think of the combination down below? Personally, I think this Esprit Alpine would look a bit better with one of the muted colours like black, white or grey on the exterior paintwork. Elsewhere in this cabin, it's a great combination of both the Renault Scenic and also the Renault Austral. I like elements of both of those cars, and it's come together to create quite a premium product. One of the controversial elements which has been brought across from the Austral is this centre console. You have this fighter jet style centre, almost like handrest. This is a handle, and it may look like it does other things, but it simply just slides this centre console forwards and backwards. And it's actually quite nice to use when driving. I like to rest my hand on it. It feels a bit more premium than in the Austral. You've got two cup holders down here, two more USB-C charge ports, a 12-volt charger, and then you've also got some wireless charging on top of this moving pad. Underneath the moving pad, you've got some more central storage, and then further back, you've got a split centre armrest storage. So loads of storage solutions and loads of places to pop items out of the way. The one thing I wish it had is a little cover that just went over this frontal storage, just to neaten it up slightly, but that's personal to me, and you can slide it forwards and that will hide it, but I just think it'd look nicer if everything could be tucked away. It does feel very driver focused in here though, and I like the layout. I love the steering wheels. We've seen these across lots of Renault products. You've got the flat bottom, you've got the pieces of Alcantara which feel really sporty. I love the stitching around these, and I like these buttons as well. They're made to look like they're haptic, but they do actually work as physical buttons. The one thing about Renault steering wheels, however, is there is so much going on. You've got the multi-sense button, which is of course to change your different drive modes. I really like that. You've also got the gear selector, which is just behind here. You've got your indicators and lights. You've got your window wipers, and then you've got another stalk for your volume. Now, Renault insist on putting their volume stalk behind the steering wheel, and I know a lot of people who are used to Renault products like this. But personally, I just think it's about time, Renault, that you moved it into the centre console. What they do have, however, which I'm really pleased about, is they do still have some physical shortcut buttons. And I really like this infotainment system. This has got to be one of the best systems currently on the market, and it's based off of Google's software, which makes it very intuitive to use, and it's laid out a lot like the menus on an Android smartphone, so it's easy to adapt to. There's a 12-inch portrait infotainment screen and a 12.3-inch digital driver's display, and everything is sharp and vibrant, and it all loads very quickly with fast response times. The Google Maps app comes built in, but there are also up to 50 other third-party apps available to download. Although, if you prefer, there is also still wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Of course, the rear design is where this car really stands aside from the Renault Austral. It's much sportier in its styling, and it has that really popular coupe roofline. Very, very similar to the Peugeot around the back, and I mean that with endearment because I love Peugeot designs. You've got that split spoiler, which I think Peugeot calls the cat ear spoiler, and then you've got a second black tipped spoiler which just comes off the boot line. Really like that. You've got a very raked rear window which is tinted, and there isn't any rear wiper, but I do not think it's necessary. When you've got the two spoilers, you're not going to find much water is going to settle on that rear window, and it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But actually, I think the rear design of this car is slightly better than the Peugeot 408. You don't have that really ugly plastic bumper. Instead, you've got a nice, sleek, gloss black bumper instead. And I really like these slim, sharp, smoked lights. They look really stylish. Now, one of the key selling points for the Rafale is just how practical it is, despite having a sloped roofline. And one of those practical elements is the amount of boot space. Inside here you'll find 535 litres available with all the seats up. However, there's also added underfloor storage, which increases the boot space to 647 litres. This space is bigger than rivals like the Peugeot 3008 and the Audi Q5. I do, however, find it a bit of a shame that they've spent so much money on mechanical upgrades, but some small things like an adjustable boot floor aren't here. So very similar to in the Renault Scenic, you have quite a load lip in the back of the Rafale, and that means that if you're lifting really heavy suitcases into the back here, if you're not particularly able-bodied, it's quite difficult to lift them out. It'll only be for a small majority of people, which will find that a little bit irritating, but I just think it would be nice to have the option of an adjustable boot floor. You do, however, have a boot floor which lifts up and there's space underneath, but I also think they could have upgraded this parcel shelf as well. It also doesn't feel particularly premium. There are rivals out there which have slightly more premium elements in this area. Usually, when you mention the word coupe, that instantly hinders any practicality an SUV might have. And other than having to duck slightly to get into the rear seats of the Rafale, it is so practical in here. As I mentioned, it's much larger than most of Renault's lineup, including, of course, the other coupe SUV, which is the Arkana. This car is far bigger than the Arkana. The Arkana is more for small starter families, and this is for much bigger established families. You can happily sit 6-foot people back here due to there being lots of headroom and lots of legroom, and you could easily fit 3 people back here as well. You've got a really practical middle seat. You've got this nice flat middle seat, and also it's nice and wide as well. So if I slide across to the middle, I'm really comfortable, and my feet fit behind the centre console quite comfortably as well. You could have much larger feet and they would fit there. So I think larger families are going to find it far more practical than other current Renault products. I also love the fact that you've got some features which have been brought across from the Scenic, and that includes this centre console, which comes down, and you've got a little bit of storage in here where you'll find 2 USB-C ports. Now that's on top of the 2 USB-C ports which are in the centre console. So you've got 4 charging ports back here. And then you have cup holders, and you've got these little pull-out sections where you can mount your mobile phone, or you can mount a tablet and you can watch anything on your tablets, which I think is fantastic, really good for family life. I also like the fact that you've got felt lined door cards, so that means that items won't rattle around, and you've also got luggage nets as well. Now luggage nets might look a little bit cheap to start with, but once again, for practicality reasons, you can see items which have been popped in there, which I think is pretty good. The only negative that I have in the back of the Rafale is probably these windows. No problem for me at 5'5", however, if you had smaller children in the back here, they might get a little bit travel sick as to not being able to see out of these slightly higher windows. And whilst it's instantly clear just how much engineering has gone into the way that this car drives, that's not the first thing that surprised me. You see, the first thing that surprised me is the seating position. I was expecting it to be slightly lower slung and have a sportier driving position, but that isn't the case. And I think this is where you notice just the size of the Rafale and where it's positioned, the fact that it's positioned as a much larger family car, because you sit up really high, great visibility out of the front window. Of course, it's not quite so good out of the back because you've got that raked roof line, it's quite small, and also it is impeded by the rear headrests as well. And the surrounding view is not ideal either because the rear windows are quite small too, although it has got a parking camera, so I can't really see manoeuvrability being an issue. But yes, I was really surprised at just how high you actually ride in this car, and I think that's going to appeal to a lot of people. But if you want the low slung driving position to match with the way it drives, it doesn't exactly have that. Just like the Austral, the projected running costs of the Rafale paint a pleasing picture. It boasts an impressive fuel efficiency figure of 60.1 miles per gallon, according to the official WLTP cycle. That positions it comfortably amongst the most economical petrol-powered SUVs. I wasn't quite able to achieve the full 60 miles per gallon, but I was focusing on the car's dynamics, so I was pushing it a little bit harder. I still anticipate, however, that achieving 45 to 50 miles per gallon would be really easy in everyday driving. Renault estimates that the electric motor alone can power up to 80% of urban mileage. At the beginning of this video, I wasn't completely crystal clear on where Renault positioned this in their current lineup. It's easy to get lost in all of their vehicles that they have at the moment. However, it only took a very short drive to realise where they'd focused all of their efforts when it comes to this car, and that's sportiness. Not only have they created a family SUV which is practical and economical, looks sporty, but it also drives sporty as well. Sure, it hasn't got the biggest engine, but I really think that as long as you don't push it too hard, that engine performs very nicely in all different situations. But let me know, what do you think of the new Renault Rafale? Do you like the look of it, or is it not for you? Pop it in the comments down below. Don't forget, if you did want to get behind the wheel of the Renault Rafale for yourself, then you can do that at either John Banks Ipswich or Cambridge. I'll pop their details in the description box. If you have enjoyed the video, please go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more, then you know what to do. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Until next time, guys, see you later.